My name is Tara, your resident harmony nerd. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, as well as a singing teacher, yoga teacher, generally well-therapized human. And I'm starting to get into frequency and energy work. And this is our very first Frequency Friday, and I'm really excited about this. Frequency Friday is where we talk about the soul behind music making, and the things that maybe get in our way of sharing our creation, no matter what sort of artist that you are. I think it can be really difficult in modern society to put ourselves out there. And so I wanted to create a space in which we could share the things that trouble us or stop us or prevent us from being brave in the way we put ourselves out into the world. Because what I found is that when we talk about these things, when we give them their own life, that we realize that, number one, we're not alone, right? That other people share the imposter syndrome or the fear of rejection that comes along with putting yourself out there. Not only do we realize we're not alone, but we can also learn from each other and share our tools, what works for us. And I think it's a really interesting space to navigate because what works for me might not work for you, but maybe somebody else here has a tool in their toolkit that would work for you. So I really like to think of these Frequency Fridays. This is the first one, but my hope for them is that they become community-based, engaging conversations where people feel safe to come here and be vulnerable, because so much of our strength as human beings comes from our vulnerability. And humans feel safer in community, right? We're communal creatures. So, yeah. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say in the comments or add before we get started? My plan for today, and I'm totally open to suggestions and feedback, but my plan for today is to just ask a couple questions, get your answers in the comments, and, speak about my thoughts on it, what's worked for me. I'm totally open to if somebody wants to pop on and join and speak. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. But if anybody wants to pop on the multi-guest and share, you're more than welcome to. I want it to be like an open and engaging conversation. I don't want it to be like me talking at you the whole time, And I realize that with these platforms where we're live, that it's easy for it to turn into that. So, Dina, hi, how are you? I almost said good morning, but I don't think it's morning in Finland. Thanks for being here. It's nice to see you. Belinda says, I'm so glad I made it to the live. It's my biggest struggle. You're not alone, Belinda, that's for sure. Belinda says, I would be interested to get up and speak, but I'm going to be back and forth in meetings. Okay. Let me know if there's a good time for you. Like, are you free right now? Do you want to come on and talk about, you mentioned above that it's your biggest struggle. My first question for everybody is, what is that? What is the thing that holds you back? What is that big thing? Can you define it? Can you put it into words? Is it a feeling? Is it a physical sensation? Is it an emotion? what exactly is the thing that gets in your way. I think that there's a lot of power in trying to put words to it, but I also don't believe it's fully necessary. So if it feels like some ethereal thing that you can't necessarily put words to, that's okay too. I think the important piece of it is facing it, whether you find words for it or not. So if anybody feels brave enough in the comments to share what that thing is that gets in the way. Belinda says, for me, it's anxiety, fear of rejection, shyness. I'm shy in real life anyway. Dina says, it helps me to realize that everyone has their insecurities, even pros. Yeah. Even like super famous people. It's pretty wild. Yeah. Thank you both for sharing. Appreciate you. Fear of rejection is so tangible, right? It's not actually tangible, right? Like we can't reach it. We can't reach out and grab it, but it feels that big. So interesting too, because I think part of the reason I became a singer is because when I sang, it was the only time I didn't get rejected. Like I knew I wasn't going to be rejected. People tend to pull me closer. I remember when I went from 6th to 7th grade, I was in a private Christian school and then transferred into public school in 7th grade. And I was such a mess. I don't think I showered enough. So embarrassing to say. Like I had no idea how to dress. So I got made fun of all the time. And then people heard me sing. And all of a sudden it was like the popular girls wanted to be my friend. And, I was pretty stubborn. I still am. So it didn't work for them. I was like, oh, you want to be my friend now? No. So it's almost like the opposite, Belinda. It's like I clung to it because it allowed me to feel more accepted than I ever felt otherwise. And you know what someone said to me recently, and it's living rent free in my head, and I'm okay with it because I'm just fascinated by this thought. Rejection isn't a feeling. It's not an emotion. Isn't that fascinating to think about? Because then you have to ask yourself, what actually is rejection? And am I actually being rejected? And the fear of rejection is such an innate human thing. Because of the way we used to survive in groups. So being rejected or abandoned meant it being a lot harder to survive. And so because it was so important, literally life or death, we evolved. This fear of rejection evolved into our beings. And I'm actually taking a nervous system course right now. And interestingly, this is more ingrained in women than in men. There's scientific research on this. This is our female nervous systems are even more communal than male nervous systems. And we are even more sensitive to rejection. And that is due to our body's abilities to bear children, because we need to be protected when, if and when, back in the day, we're living in these groups, we need to be protected while we're pregnant, after childbirth, postpartum. And so evolutionarily speaking, women's nervous system, female nervous systems have developed more deeply into community, and we are more sensitive to the fear of rejection, biologically speaking. So I would ask you too to like keep that in mind and be gentle with yourself, because your body is doing what your body has evolved to do. It's trying to keep you safe. Tina says, for me, the biggest struggle is perfectionism and self-criticism. You're such a poop emoji to yourself. Yeah, it's hard. I actually just wrote an article on this that I'm about to publish. I'll send it to you, Tina, when it's up. Because I blame the modern music industry. Fuck them. Like, seriously? You're auto-tuning everything since the year 2000. No, 1998. And then everything you hear that's recorded is literally perfect. And that's what we have to compare ourselves to. I personally don't believe that's an accident. Who wins? Who wins when you decide your voice isn't good enough to use before you even use it? That's a, oof, I like felt that in my gut when I said that out loud. That is a hard question. Somebody wins when you decide not to use your voice. Who is that person? Do you want them to win? I also like being my biggest critic. I think it helps me, but that might be wrong. I think there's room for both, Dina. I like to encourage people to be lovingly critical, because you can identify what you need to improve upon, but you also need to be your own cheerleader and know what you did really well. So, I think when you're listening back to yourself or you're singing something, you might say, I didn't hit that belty note quite the way I wanted to, but I did this other thing really well. I think it's really important to balance, especially if we're dealing with other insecurities like fear of rejection or putting ourselves out there. That it's really important to also embrace yourself. I personally feel like the modern contemporary music industry is deeply problematic. Digital audio production is fantastic, but it's gone too far. It's gone so far that people are auto-tuned live. So like even when you're witnessing a live performance, is it really live? Is it pre-recorded? Are they lip syncing? Do they have an auto-tune feature, a filter over their live vocal that's coming out? That's why, have you ever seen on YouTube like the raw vocals from people's in-ear monitors? I always wonder if they're true, if that's actually what it is. But I think that digital audio production, at least the way that it's evolved in the current music industry, it makes it impossible to believe in yourself unless you sound gorgeous as is. And I mean, even like Ariana Grande, as an example, she's a phenomenal singer, but she still doesn't sound live the way she sounds recorded. It's not possible. She's got like a $30,000 vocal chain. And if you're not familiar with vocal chain, that's like all the filters and the microphones and the effects that the studio puts on her voice. So even somebody who is a world-class vocalist does not sound like their recordings without all the bells and whistles. It's really important to remember. It's like, I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. Like, do you all remember the Victoria's Secret catalogs? and how that standard of beauty was impossible. That's essentially what we're comparing ourselves to in the music industry, right? It was not possible to look like a Victoria's Secret model because they were airbrushed, they were photoshopped. These women don't actually exist. So to compare yourself to them is a losing game, but somebody's winning off that. Somebody's profiting off that because you're buying their products to try to force your body to look like something that is unattainable. So I would love for you to take that idea and place it onto the music industry. You're comparing yourself to something that is not attainable. It's not real. It doesn't mean Ariana Grande is not a good singer live, but what you're hearing on her studio recordings is not her voice. It is a machine altered voice, just like those Victoria's Secret catalogs were machine altered images. So I think that it's really important to keep that in mind. I think that it will help with understanding that, like, I mean, perfection in music performance doesn't actually exist. We can get really close. But I also really miss the human element. I love listening to old recordings where somebody sings a little flat or the horn player misses the high note. You know, it's like, it reminds you that it's the human element, which is, I think, what makes music so appealing and connects us all so deeply. It literally is humanity. It's a form of expressing our humanity. And I believe that, like, creation and creating sound, music, I feel like it's a way for us to connect with something greater than us, something divine. And maybe if not something greater than us, maybe you're an atheist. At least a way to connect with each other. And there's been a lot of studies done to show that when we use our voices in community, our immune systems boost, our nervous systems relax. The greater community, the more humans, the bigger the immune system boost is. There's something to this thing. And I do think that an individualistic capitalist society has a lot to benefit from when they tell you you're not good enough to use your voice. Because if you're not using your voice, then you're not using it in community. You're not getting that immune system boost. At least in the US, we have a for-profit healthcare system. Somebody's profiting off of that. It's always worthwhile to ask yourself, is somebody profiting off of this? All right. Soapbox. I'm going to scroll up now and read some of the comments. Belinda says, I found myself being critical of myself singing alone in my room last night when your voice cracked. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I stopped beating myself up and was like, what am I doing? Celebrating with you. Celebrating with you, Belinda. That's fantastic. Yeah, why? Voices crack sometimes. Especially when it's just you and you. I'm so proud of you for having that, because that's the hardest thing to train yourself to do, is to have that moment to be like, wait a minute, who am I critiquing for? For someone else? My voice cracked. That's information for me. I wonder why my voice cracked. You're so much better getting curious than getting critical. Was I not warmed up enough? Is that note a little bit out of reach for me? Do I need to stretch my voice my range a little bit further? Right? It's so much more beneficial to you to get curious instead of getting critical. Dina, I recorded my own reaction to my practice video, comments and all. I think it helped. Oh, I love that, Dina. That's fantastic. You guys, I just realized I have my breakfast smoothie on my hand. I was like, what's on my hand? Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess this morning, y'all. But you know what? I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to get critical. I don't even need to get curious. I know why I'm a mess this morning. I didn't sleep that well. What? How did it, what? I don't even know how this got all over my hand. Oh my goodness. I love the idea of recording your own. It's like vocal coach reacts, but to yourself. I love that because then when you watch back too, you're going to get a lot of information about how you treat yourself. Right? And it's okay to be critical. It's okay to find areas of improvement, but you also have to love yourself in that through that process. Thank you everybody for all the likes and the engagement. I really appreciate it. Betty says, I can understand that. I felt like I wasn't good enough because so many on here have mics. I went out and bought a karaoke mic, but it's got so much echo I can't even use it. Yeah. Gear doesn't make you good. Right? I mean, I'm a professional. I don't have a microphone set up. But I understand it's easy to get in your head about those things, right? Oh, they take it more seriously. Tina's got an awesome setup. And that's not necessarily true. Their financial situation could be different. Maybe they have a musician friend who gave them their old microphone. Gear doesn't make you good or bad. It just is. So I hope you can return that echoing microphone. Yeah. Yeah, I like that, Dina. A good mic helps you sound better, but sounding better doesn't always help you sing better. Yeah. For sure. What's going into the mic is still the same, right? I think part of being able to grow your confidence and put yourself out there also has a lot to do with your capacity to sit with the things that make you uncomfortable, to question, why am I beating myself up for my voice cracking? Why did I think I needed a mic to compete with other people? Um, we have to get curious about these ideas and where they came from and who put them there. And I think it's really important to develop a muscle, and it is a muscle, it's a skill of being able to ask yourself hard questions and sit with the discomfort. Melinda says, I feel like I never found my tone because I was always trying to sound like someone else. Yeah. I don't know if you were here when I was saying this yesterday, Belinda, but I'm switching up the format of uh, the free voice lessons on TikTok Live. On Thursdays, I'm going to start bringing in a topic, and I will still invite people on for 5-10 minutes if they want to work on the skill with me. But everybody's going to be focused on the same topic. I think we'll get more mileage that way. And this upcoming Thursday next week is going to be finding your own voice. That's the topic. So if you can make it, please do. And if you can't make it, I'm also on YouTube Live right now. I'm building my YouTube channel, so nobody's over here. Hey, YouTube. But if you can't be there live, the point of me doing them on YouTube as well is that all the lives will be reposted, so you can go back and rewatch it on YouTube. If you can't make it in person. I'm uncomfortable with how I sound naturally. Yeah. That's a really great observation. I'm wondering if you know, I wonder if we heard more natural voices, if we would be more comfortable with our own. Right? Because even here on TikTok, right? I love these videos where people are like totally live, no studio effects, and it's very clearly studio effects. But if you don't have an ear where you know what studio effects sound like, then somebody's telling you it's real. You could believe them. The ones that really upset me are those ones. I mean, they're all phenomenal singers, and they're usually in that kitchen, and they're like with the white cupboards, and people are usually sitting on the countertop and they're singing a cappella. It is so clearly studio reverb. They act like, like it's live, and I think that that is damaging. Even when you are popping on somebody's live like this and they're singing and they have their microphone, Betty, and their headphones and everything, they are putting live studio effects on their voices. I don't know. I feel like maybe Raymond, is it Salgado or Delgado? I think Salgado. I feel like he's the only one I see just sing without a mic. And that's another thing to keep in mind too, Betty. If you don't have a mic, you don't have effects. That's your real voice. People who have these mics may very well be putting studio effects on themselves. When somebody doesn't have a microphone, you know that it's their actual voice. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I know. He's just so fantastic. The tone is so beautiful. Like it like melts you. And I'm not saying these people who are using effects are bad, not by any means. But I do think that at some point it causes harm. I got no effects. All I got is the echo from the stairwell. That's fantastic. That's natural reverb. Like you bought, which sounds like a robot. That's funny. Really hope you can return it. I personally believe that there is intentionality behind making us uncomfortable with the sounds of our own voices. Like the status quo has a lot to use if we're vocal, or a lot to lose if we're vocal. But if we don't even like the sound of our own voices, if it makes us uncomfortable, we're a lot less likely to speak out. We're a lot less likely to use our voice. And then again, who does that benefit? Yeah, reverb is awesome. It sounds great. But I'm trying to think, even if you go to like a local coffee shop and somebody's just singing and playing, there's still a fair likelihood that they have effects on their voice, on their instrument. Have you all ever heard of circle singing? There's a community called Gaia, Gaia, and they're worldwide at this point. And they host these community circle singing events and like one day choirs and stuff. And I just feel like that work is so important. I've been trying to think about more ways to bring community singing into my community, because it grows confidence in so many ways. And going back to the conversation about fear of rejection, so the part of our brain that processes pain is the same part of our brain that processes rejection. Social, societal rejection feels like physical pain. And that, again, is evolutionary because it was, so necessary to remain in community to survive before modern societies existed. So the threat is very real. The perceived threat is very real. And I think the way that we work with it is to allow it and to explore it. Because you have to be able to have a conversation with what you're afraid of in order to quell it. Is anyone interested or familiar with internal family systems? There's a really great book called No Bad Parts. I think it might be in my TikTok shop. Hold on, let me check really quickly just in case anybody's interested in it. And if not, I'll look it up and share the author with you all. Oh, interesting. I can't access shop from the web browser. That's interesting. Anyway, it's called No Bad Parts, and it's by Dr. Richard Schwartz. Yes. Audiobook or paperback book. Alanis Morissette actually wrote the foreword. And internal family systems is this idea that, like, Linda says, like, firstborn, youngest child, or scapegoat, golden child, black sheep. That's a really great thought. That's not quite what internal family systems is. I'll explain it. I have talked about it. I do think it's a great tool. My therapist is really big on it, and I've read this book, and I do recommend the book. There's exercises in the book too, and I think that it's a great way if you aren't ready for therapy or if it's too much of a time or money commitment. This is a great way to access the tools. And so internal family systems is the little family that lives inside of you. That's why it's internal. So you might have those parts of your family living inside of you, firstborn, youngest child, um, the part of you, I always picture it, this isn't necessary. This is just how I picture it in my own mind, of all these tiny little Taras living inside my head. Excuse me. The phlegm is still not quite going away. We'll get there someday. I'll be fully healthy again. And they each have a different role, right? So the part of your internal family system that wants to protect you from rejection or criticism, you might call that one your protector, right? And then you might have another part of yourself that is the nurturer, and another part of yourself that is the badass, right? Another part of yourself that is the mean one. We have all these different parts of ourselves. And I think what's so fascinating about the introduction to the book is that it cites that, like, acknowledging the different parts of yourself has been considered crazy in modern society. Like, you're schizophrenic or bipolar, or we all have different parts of ourselves. So What I would do in therapy, and I'll lead you all through this now. If you're interested to participate, you can follow along with me. And if you're not ready for it, that's okay too. You can totally just observe. But what I like to do, for me, it's really helpful to close my eyes. I can get in touch with the different parts of myself much easier if I remove visual stimulus. And I like to take a couple of deep breaths, because the conversations that need to happen between different parts of yourself can be really hard. But you're going to learn so much about who you are and what you believe. Because then there's also your highest self, right? The sage, the wise one. And all of these parts can connect and talk to each other. And it's important that they do, because you'll uncover beliefs that you didn't realize you had. So, for example, let's say I am about to sing a gig, and I've always wanted to do be one of those guest vocalists with like a full orchestra. And I've done it in a choir, but never as a soloist. So let's say I'm about to do that, and this is a dream coming true for me, but I feel like I'm going to puke, right? Like, I'm just so nervous. You can put me in a 12-piece band and on any stage anywhere, and I'm fine. But this seems like something that is really scary and desirable. So how do I make amends with these two parts of myself? Well, the part of me that feels like it's going to puke is trying to stop me from going on that stage. Why? So that's when internal family systems comes in. It really helps for me to sit down and say, hi, part of myself that is so confident this is bad for me. We're feeling physically ill. You can ask it, what's your name? Maybe it doesn't have a name. Okay. I'm going to call you the protector. All right. Hi, protector. Thank you for trying to protect me. Can you please share with me what you are trying to protect me from? And then that you give the protector space to speak. So it's almost like you're having a conversation with yourself. And sometimes when you first start this, they might even suggest putting different chairs around the room and moving your body to physically embody the different parts of yourself. So now I'm going to give the protector a chance to talk, and the protector is going to say to me, this isn't safe. What are you doing? You're risking social rejection. You're risking your reputation. What if you don't sound good and people make fun of you? What if this ruins your career? And then I go back into the part of me that is curious, the part of me that is more me. And I would say, thank you. I hear your concerns. They're valid. I understand that, you are an older part of my evolution. You are doing your job. You love me, and you're trying to protect me and keep me safe. And I thank you for that. I do. I think it's very powerful that you want to protect me so strongly. However, this is not a situation in which I'm going to be ostracized to the point of it affecting my chances of survival. I am safe. I am safe. I understand that nerves are here, but I am physically safe. And then ask the protector what they have to say in response. Are you sure you're safe? I don't believe you. This doesn't feel good. Thank you, protector. I hear you that this doesn't feel good for you. And I'm feeling that in my body too. So why don't we just sit together, me and you, and we together can hold these feelings, these physical sensations of unsafety. Let's feel them together and see if we can process them, help them move through. Is that okay with you? And then the protector will say yes or no. And if the protector says no, you should respect it. You have to develop a relationship with these different parts of yourself so that they start to trust you. Because once you trust all the different parts of yourself, that's when you truly start integrating. So now I'm sitting with my protector instead of fighting against her, saying, "Why are you protecting me? This doesn't feel good. I'm fine." We've had a conversation in which we've developed an understanding of one another. And now with our understanding of one another, I can sit next to my protector and hold her hand and say, "Let's feel into this together." What do I feel? I feel a pit in my stomach. I feel a warm rising sensation from my chest into my throat. I feel nauseous. I'm shaking. I'm experiencing all these different physical sensations of not being safe. What happens if instead of resisting these sensations, what happens if I lean into them? What if I give my full attention to the pit in my stomach and I take a deep breath? Maybe that sensation moves. And if it does, I want you to follow it. Okay. I gave the pit in my stomach my attention. I sent some breath to it and it moved up into my chest. So now I'm going to pay attention to the sensation in my chest. Breathing into it. Does it move? Is it stuck? If it's stuck, it needs more love. It needs more attention. Stay with it. If it moves, also stay with it. Our bodies are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for in modern society. Okay, it moved up for me just a little bit. Now I'm feeling it in my throat and the back of my head. And I'm just staying with myself. When we can stay with ourselves and not reject or abandon what we're feeling or our own personal experiences, we are much more likely to make amends with the part of ourselves that feels nervous or isn't confident or fears rejection. Okay? If you practiced with me, go ahead and take a couple deep breaths. Maybe give yourself a hug. Tell your inner child you love them. It's a lot. I feel emotionally exhausted just from having a conversation that was made up, as an example. It's hard work, but it's healing work. And it will not only affect your ability to perform and to believe in yourself when you want to share your art, your singing, your music with the world. It's going to make you a much more well-rounded human being. I really encourage you all to get in touch with the parts of yourself that quote unquote give you trouble. Your protector, your critic. Maybe you have an inner bully who is way too hard on yourself. The bully's trying to protect you from something too. And that's why the book is called No Bad Parts. Because none of these parts have bad intentions. Every single one of them is trying to protect you. Ooh, I'm going to take a moment to reorient myself to the room. My eyes were closed for quite a minute. And this is something that I recommend you do too. If you close your eyes or when you work with this, it's really good for your nervous system to slowly look around the room and reorient yourself with your space. Welcome back. I went on a journey. All right. I'm gonna scroll up and read through some of the comments there while I was in my own world. All right. Linda says, yes, my internal family has so much drama. Yeah. There's all these different parts of yourselves and they all have different goals. They all have different needs. And they need what they need. The protector needs to protect you at any cost. Too bad it's not on Netflix. Oh man, Tina, that's an amazing idea for a cartoon. Oh my God, it's like there's like an actual person, or maybe even the actual person's a cartoon, and then you go into their head in the show. It's the internal family systems. That seems like it'd be really entertaining. He was doing a contest the other night and was feeling pretty good, even when voted out. That's great. Till the host said something about not just voting for friends. I'm tone deaf. That's interesting. Why would a host say something like that? Also, people are always going to vote for their friends. That's a human thing. But like tone deafness barely actually exists. I hate when people talk about things that they don't understand. It drives me batty. I'm guessing whoever said that doesn't have an actual understanding of what tone deafness actually is, because it's very rare. I know people use it like a colloquialism, but actual tone deafness is very rare. That upsets me. I really don't like when people discourage other people, especially when they don't know what they're talking about. The other singers were so good. I assumed he was talking about me because of my internal voice. Yeah. Well, Betty, I think thank you for sharing that. It's really brave of you to share. Thank you. And I think that that's a really good moment to get curious instead of critical, right? Because was he talking about you? You don't know. Did he say he was talking about you directly? No. Does he know what he's talking about? That's another thing to get curious about. Is this person qualified? It's a host running a show. Are they a professional singer? Are they a vocal coach? Are they a teacher? Do they know music theory? Do they know anything about music? Are they just hired to be a host? A lot of times, singing contest hosts, karaoke hosts, they like music, but that doesn't necessarily make them qualified. So I'm proud of you for staying in a positive mindset. And I encourage you, the next time something like that is said, to ask yourself, whose mouth is this coming out of? Were they actually talking about me? Do I know that? Yeah, I agree, Tina. It's really douchey. And again, like, who are you to even say this? You found out later it was another girl in the contest that they were talking about. They shouldn't have been talking about anyone in the contest that way. That's like a very... Talking about other people that way who are putting themselves out there indicates to me that you don't know what you're doing. And it indicates to me that you don't believe in your own gifts. People who know that they have something that comes from their heart, they don't have to tell you, right? Like when I work with other singers and it's the first time I've worked with a singer and they're like telling me their resume before they've even sang anything, I'm like, wow, okay, this person, one, either has an ego problem or they have an insecurity problem. And usually they're the same, two sides of the same coin. I'm never going to tell you how good I am. Just listen. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. Do I know I'm technically qualified? Yeah, I've been working for a long time. But there's also something like biological that like there's somebody out there, maybe a certain percentage of people who are going to hate the sound of my voice. And that's okay. There's like 99 other people who like it. So sorry if my voice isn't for you. You know, it's like, for example, I hate Dave Matthews' singing voice. I hate it. He's famous. He's a great songwriter. People love him. The sound of his voice is like nails on a chalkboard to me. It makes me viscerally angry. Sometimes that just happens. What's the name of the book again? Yes, No Bad Parts by Dick Schwartz. Richard Schwartz. Never mind. Oh, did you find it? My inner voice knew he must be talking about me. Yeah. Betty, get curious about that inner voice. Which part of you is that? Why was it so sure he was talking about you? Is this a protector? Is this an inner child? If it's an inner child, you can ask her how old she is. Maybe something happened to her that made her believe she wasn't a good singer, and she's never had a chance to talk about it. It is kind of like Inside Out, Belinda. Yeah. Yeah. Inside Out, they're representing different emotions. And in internal family systems, they have like roles. And then the different roles have their own emotions. So it's a little more complex. But I do think Inside Out is like a really good way to picture it. Yeah. And like, who's running the ship right now, right? Is the protector running the ship right now? Is the inner child who was told she couldn't sing running the ship right now? Can you, as your current adult higher self, step back in and have that conversation and show those parts of yourself that need love? You're absolutely right. It's hard when you feel they have a big platform. Yeah. It's hard too, Betty, because I feel like we live in a society that rewards bad behavior. If you cause drama or say mean things, like, right? I feel like it's like the reality TV phenomenon. It's like a car wreck. You can't look away. Years ago, I used to think every time I faced rejection, it was because I'm gay. Dina, may I ask, thank you for sharing that. But may I ask, you said years ago you used to think that. May I ask what helped you grow past it? And I hope that didn't sound diminishing, because I understand that for all the traumas we hold and we work through, that it's like they always come back around, right? It's like it's never a full circle. I don't know. My therapist uses this visual that I really love. Are you all familiar with the Guggenheim Museum? I'll just explain it quickly if you're not. So the Guggenheim, it was the museum in Men in Black. If you've seen the film Men in Black, where Will Smith is running up the like spiral white, it's like a ramp. There's no stairs, right? But it's a spiral. Excuse me. So if here's the ground floor, right, and you get on the ramp in the Guggenheim, and you start here. Well, let's say my ring is where we're going to start, and then we walk up the ramp, and we're going in a spiral in a circle. So we come back to where the ring is, but we're a floor higher, right? And then we keep walking up the ramp. It's like this infinity, never-ending spiral in the Guggenheim. So here we are. We're back at the ring again, but now we're 2 floors up. And here we go. We're back at the ring again, but now we're 4 floors up, and so on and so forth. And so my therapist uses this visual to say that, like, we're always going to come back, right? Life is cyclical, but we have a new perspective each time, usually a higher perspective. And it doesn't mean it's not going to knock us off our feet. It doesn't mean it's not going to feel like we're taking 10 steps backwards. But if we really examine it, we are always sitting from a new perspective because we're constantly evolving in our day to day. All the people in contest sounded amazing. So tone deaf was it was a shitty thing to say. I'm glad that you can recognize that, Betty. It's rude. There's no reason to say that. And again, I asked, like, does this person even understand what tone deafness is? Because it's not common. Less than 2% of the population is legitimately tone deaf. It's a spot on the brain. The brain literally can't process pitch. It's so rare. So like for somebody to say that, it's just mean. It's bullying. It doesn't make sense to me. It makes me mad. Big mad. I picked my biggest insecurity and ran with it. Yeah. Looks like we are family. I love it. I love being gay and I'm good at it. So confidence helps. Hell yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. Being a human is so hard. So hard. We're not making it any easier on ourselves. Both like individually and societally, you know? Oh, this has been so great. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to share? Nelly, come say hi. Everybody wants to see your cute little kitty cat face. This cat spends the vast majority of his time begging for food. Oh, happy early anniversary, Betty. That's wonderful. 10 years is huge. God, I'm lucky if my relationships last 10 months. Womp, womp, womp. That's what my inner protector protects me from, intimacy. I'll sing songs all day. You asked me to be intimate, and I'm like, ah, I'm going to get hurt, run. Cool. I'll leave the live open for a few more minutes. I'm going to sign off soon. I'm going to 6 years for us in the beginning of August. Oh, look at all the love. See, I do love love. I'm just afraid of it for myself. I think it's so great. I'm going to go warm up my coffee. I will be back. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves. Hi, cutie. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hungry, hungry hippo. Yeah. 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 Thanks, Betty. Trusting people can be very scary. You're a comedian. I bring you all to second date, so I don't know what you're talking about. Oh. I think I finally might have just moved the phlegm that's been sitting right here for at least 2 weeks. Oh, freedom. Freedom, freedom. All right, my dears, thank you so much for hanging out today for our first Frequency Friday. I got a full schedule next week. Music Theory Monday, Ear Training Tuesday, Warm Up Wednesday, Voice Lesson Thursday. The topic is going to be finding your own voice, and then another Frequency Friday. So if you're welcome to pre-register, those are all on my profile. If you go to my profile, under my profile picture, you'll see my link tree and then the live events scheduled for next week. If you want to pre-register, TikTok or YouTube will remind you when I'm live. And don't forget, I'll be posting the replays on YouTube. So if you're joining me from TikTok, I am the same handle over on YouTube. So, oh, yay. I love when we make friends in the comment sections and everybody supports each other. That's so fabulous. I love it. Cool. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend. I am going to take this weekend off from social media, and I will see you all very soon. Take care. Have a great weekend.